Welcome aboard, applicants. Thank you for tuning in. We're going to be going over question 4 of the Baby Bar October 2019. Let's begin. Call number 1. With what crimes, if any, can Dara reasonably be charged for the events that took place at Ned's home? What defenses, if any, can she reasonably raise, and what is the likely result? Discuss. 2. With what crimes, if any, can Ned reasonably be charged? What defenses, if any, can he reasonably raise? And what is the likely result? Discuss. Right here, we can clearly see that our area of law is criminal law. Why? With what crimes is indicated in our call. So let's immediately put down our shopping list, our checklist. Okay, ours shopping list is murder, structure, theft, crimes against the person, solicitation, conspiracy, attempt, and defenses. Be definitely, if you have your own shopping list, your own checklist, please insert that at this point so that when you read the call, or excuse me, read the question with the facts, you can zoom in on those facts and find the issues and issue spot efficiently. Okay, going to the question now. Ned learned from news reports that several homes in his neighborhood had recently been broken into at night. The reports said that the break-ins had occurred when the homeowners were not present and that no one had been injured. However, thousands of dollars worth of electronics had been taken. The break-ins were being perpetrated by Dara and Don. Dara would wait in the getaway car while Don broke in and stole electronics. Neither was armed during the break-ins. Ned became obsessed with preventing his home from being broken into. He installed exterior cameras with night vision that would set off alarms inside his home if anyone approached. He also placed loaded guns that he lawfully possessed in every room. In fact, Ned began looking forward to the prospect of shooting an intruder. One night, Dara and Don chose to break into Ned's home. Dara parked outside and Don crept toward the house. Inside, Ned's alarm activated. On the video feeds, Ned saw that Don was right outside his dining room window. Ned entered the dining room. He picked up a shotgun and shot Don through the window, killing him. Don had not yet touched Ned's house when Ned shot him. Now, right here, we should be zooming in on with our shopping list in mind. When looking at, well, first I should say, we should be laying out our call, addressing our call by appropriately headering call 1 and call 2 in our answer for call 1 and call 2. It's going to be State v. Dara. 2, it's going to be State v. Ned. D and N. Okay. Going up now and looking at State v. Dara, when we learned that, okay, in our second call, we're going to be looking for now the facts that trigger our issues. Ned learned from news reports that several homes in our neighborhood had recently been broken into at night. Or several homes in his neighborhood, had recently been broken into at night. Foundational fact. The report said that the break-ins had occurred when the homeowners were not present and that no one had been injured. However, thousands of dollars worth of electronics had been taken. Still foundational facts for some issue that we just haven't found a home for yet. The break-ins were being perpetrated by Dara and Don. Right there, we have something that we call in the criminal law shopping list a conspiracy. Now, after having talked about the break-ins were being perpetrated by Dara and Don, There's your conspiracy. Dara would wait in the getaway car while Don broke in and stole electronics. Ah, there we go. There's something else we want to talk about. Now, we are going to break out conspiracy in its elemental form, but right now we're looking at the big picture of our issues. We're going to talk about accomplice liability and possibly accessory before the fact. Why am I saying accessory before the fact with accomplice liability? Let's come up here and take a look. Dara would wait in the getaway car while Don broke in and stole electronics. Neither was armed during the break-ins. So why I, in addition to accomplice liability, put down accessory before the fact is that Dara and Don were perpetrating these crimes in the neighborhood of Ned, and that Dara, before the fact, would wait in the getaway car while Don perpetrated. And that's what makes Dara an accessory, not only an accomplice, but an accessory before the fact in particular. Now, down under paragraph 2, Ned became obsessed with preventing his home from being broken into. He installed exterior cameras with night vision that would set off alarms inside his home if anyone approached. Still, this doesn't deal with Dara. This may more deal with Ned, but we haven't got to Ned yet. He also placed loaded guns that he lawfully possessed in every room. In fact, Ned began looking forward to the prospect of shooting an intruder. Still, these are all pretty much ideas of Ned at this point in paragraph 2. Now, paragraph 3, we switch gears. One night, Dara and Don chose to break into Ned's home. Dara parked outside, and Don crept towards the house. Now, this aspect about creeping towards the house could in our mind right now start triggering the issue of an attempted crime. House being maybe an attempted burglary. We're not quite sure yet, so let's read more of the facts. Inside, Ned's alarm activated. Okay, on the video feeds, Ned saw that Don was right outside his dining room window, still within that attempt zone. Ned entered the dining room, picked up his shotgun, and shot Don through the window. Now we have an interesting sitch, killing him. Should the state charge Dara with the death of Don? We got to look at this under the felony murder rule. And we're going to in particular look at the red line rule when we get to that. But right now we don't even have, let's see, we have enough facts to talk about attempt, but we're still not done with all of our facts because we need to read all of our facts to get the full big picture. Don had not yet touched Ned's house when Ned shot him. Excellent. So now we've finished up, or no, sorry, not excellent. I mean, what I mean is excellent. We've finished up our facts. Now we have the big picture, and we can start to look at the attempted crimes, possibly of attempted burglary. Okay, now attempted burglary. Why attempted burglary and not burglary proper, or I should say just a full burglary? Well, because we're looking at Ned, the facts pointing out that Don had not yet touched Ned's house. What does that mean? He hadn't even started to bring about a breaking or entering proper, a breaking and entering in Ned's house. He was at that point of perpetration, which is beyond mere preparation. Okay, and we'll get to all the elements on our attempt now too. Now that we've talked about laid out all the area for Dara, we also want to talk about all of the issue areas for Ned. Let's come back up and talk about this now. What happened to that second paragraph? Because we established that the second paragraph dealt with Ned. Ned became obsessed with preventing his home from being broken into. What's that? Defensive property. We want to see that a lot of these things pop up, these issues pop up even before the crime. That the defenses might pop up before the crime. So the defense of property, okay. And you might be asking yourself too, we heard and read about Ned learning news reports that several homes in his neighborhood had recently been broken into at night. Now, Ned installed exterior cameras with night vision that would set off alarms inside his home if anyone approached. Well, again, possibly defensive property, but we also might be looking at what? Possibly crime prevention too. And maybe actually before that, we should probably talk about self-defense, because that would be also why Ned would be taking these measures against the criminal activity that he was hearing about concerning his home. Now, the other one we just mentioned was crime prevention. Okay, now up here, when he also placed loaded guns that he lawfully possessed in every room. In fact, that goes more to what we talked about in terms of self-defense. That's a great self-defense argument there. In fact, Ned began looking forward to the prospect of shooting an intruder. This might actually go towards something else in terms of the homicide that we hear about in this third paragraph concerning Don. So right now, let's make sure we talk about or mention in our outline here homicide of Don, and this being looking forward to the prospect of shooting an intruder might go towards that intent to kill aspect. We're not quite sure yet, but it's possible. Now, we also are seeing in this third paragraph that when Dara and Don chose to break into Ned's home, Dara parked outside and Don crept towards the house. Inside, Ned's alarm activated. Again, still that aspect about defensive property, self-defense, crime prevention. On the video feeds, Ned saw that Don was right outside his dining room window. Okay. Ned entered the dining room, picked up a shotgun, and shot Don through the window, killing him. Now, the interesting thing here is that inside Ned's alarm activated. I don't want to pass up this thing of provocation, because we want to make sure that we talk about voluntary manslaughter, and we also want to back that with involuntary manslaughter. Criminal gross negligence. Okay, so at this point, we pretty much have a full discussion of both parties. State v. Dara, State v. Ned. Let's get to work. Okay, right now, conspiracy. Conspiracy is an agreement between two or more people to commit a crime or to commit a lawful activity in an unlawful manner. Okay. We want to make sure to note where do we see the agreement between Dara and Don. Let's come up here and take a look, because we have to have an agreement. So we find out that the break-ins were being perpetrated by Dara and Don. Okay, this would be the fact that we would be looking at when we find out that there was in fact an agreement between Dara and Don. Okay, so now down here, the facts state that Dara and Don, come back up here and grab, we're perpetrating break-ins. And where in particular? That in news reports that several homes in his neighborhood had recently been broken into. So in Ned's neighborhood. But still, we have to have one more fact that connects Dara and Don to Ned. Where do we see this? One night, Dara and Don chose to break into Ned's home. Specifically, one night, Dara and Don chose to break into Ned's home. Okay, now the state will argue that this choice by Dara and Don to break into Ned's home was sufficient for establishing an agreement to commit a crime upon Ned's home, or sufficient to commit a crime. And we're going to talk about burglary in particular, discussed infra, which it means discussed below. The crime of burglary. Moreover, the state, now remember, we need some jurisdictions require an overt act in furtherance of the conspiracy. The state will argue that Dara and Don, sure I got the spelling correctly here. Okay. Moreover, the state will argue that Dara and Don, let's see, committed acts sufficient for an overt act in furtherance of the burglary when in particular, let's come back up here and look. When one night, when Dara parked outside and Don crept toward the house. Is that when they drove to? Yes, when they drove to Ned's house. They parked outside, and Don crept toward the house. Hence, sufficient acts to prove overt acts in furtherance of the criminal objective, which would probably be burglary here. The burglary. Okay, now let's take a look at Pinkerton's rule, because remember we have an agreement, target crime, which we have burglary. We got overt act in furtherance we talked about. We now also need to talk about is Pinkerton's rule. Under Pinkerton's rule, Dara would be liable for all actions of Don that are in furtherance, or I should say reasonable furtherance, of the criminal plan or objective. Hence, Dara would, of the target crime, yes. Criminal plan, objective. Target crime. Exactly correct. Excellent job. Hence, Dara would be liable for the criminal conduct of Dawn in connection with breaking into Ned's home. Okay. Thus, the state will be able to charge Dara with conspiracy. Okay. Now, let's come down and take a look at something called accomplice liability. Accomplice liability is present when a criminal defendant aids and abets in the commission of the crime with the intent that the crime be committed. Well, let's take a look here. Where did Dara aid in the commission of this crime? Implied agreement through action, driving, and waiting. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Specifically, so we argue that this choice by Dara and Dawn to break into Ned's home was implied through their implied through their conduct. Also, the state will argue that their State will argue that their criminal activity trying to see what we probably could say here. That their criminal activity was sufficient for establishing an agreement to commit a crime, the crime of burglary of Ned's home. Okay. How about this? Leading up to the crime was sufficient for establishing an agreement to commit the crime. The crime of burglary of Ned's home. Okay. Now, down under accomplice liability, where in our fact pattern did Dara aid and abet in the commission of the crime? Well, right here we see that Dara and Dawn chose to break into Ned's home. Dara parked outside. There it is, right here. Boom. Dara parking outside. So we have an aiding and abetting situation. And it also, she waited, exactly. And, okay, yes, so we'll throw that in here. The facts state that Dara parked outside Ned's home on the night she and Dawn were going to break into Ned's home. In addition, the facts indicate that she waited for Dawn to commit the crime excuse me, And it also says too that she would wait in the getaway car while Don broke in and stole. Yeah, her waiting in the getaway car while Don did perpetrate all the criminal activity. Excuse me. Right here. In addition, the facts indicate that she planned on waiting for Don to commit the crime inside Ned's home. Okay. These actions, state will argue, that these actions by Dara indicate or evidence that Dara aided in the commission of the burglary of the possible burglary of Ned's home. Also, the state will argue that these actions taken by Dara indicated that she had an intent that the crime be committed. Thus, the state will be able to argue. Oh, how? Yeah, okay. Question mark. Yes. Because also the state will argue that these actions taken by Dara indicated that she had an intent that the crime be committed because she helped Don carry out the entire criminal objective, the entire criminal, the entire target crime. Which would be up here would be them. Oh yeah, as a driver. That's right. Okay, we've got to probably come back here. Okay, so we'll say also the state will argue that these actions taken by Dara indicated that she had an intent that the crime be committed because she helped Don carry out the entire target crime by being the getaway driver. Okay, here we go. The state will be able to argue that Dara was an accomplice with Don. Okay. And should be liable for all natural consequences of the criminal activity or criminal conduct. Okay. An accessory before the fact. An accessory before the fact is an accomplice that intends the crime be committed and helps carry out the crime before entering the crime scene. Here, the facts indicate that Dara was Don's getaway driver and that Dara would drive her and Don to the crime scene. I'm going to make sure we go up here real quick. Make sure we're using the facts correctly. The reports that the break-ins had occurred when the homeowners were not present and that no one had been injured. However, thousands of dollars worth of electronics had been taken. The break-ins were perpetrated by Dara and Don. Dara would wait in the getaway car while Don broke in and stole electronics. Neither was armed during the break-ins. Okay. Okay. The facts indicate that Dara was Don's getaway driver and that Dara would drive her and Don to the crime scene. Also, Dara would, let me come back up here real quick, make sure I have this, that she would wait for Don while Don broke in and stole electronics. So the facts indicate that Dara was Don's getaway driver, and that Dara would drive her and Don to the crime scene. Also, Dara would wait for Don while Don would steal electronics. Here, Dara drove Don to Ned's house in order for Don to break in and steal from Ned. Make sure I got that fact correct on here. One night chose to break in. Yep, break into Ned's home. Probably okay. Okay. So here Dara drove Don to Ned's house in order for Don to break into Ned's home. State will argue that Dara was an accessory before the fact because she helped Don carry out the criminal objective by driving him to the crime scene and providing him transportation. For driving him, waiting for him to carry out the crime, and providing him transportation through being a getaway driver. Okay. Okay. Thus, the state will be able to charge Dara with being an accessory before the fact. Okay. Now, down to felony murder rule. Felony murder rule applies when a homicide, or applies when a foreseeable homicide occurs during the perpetration of an inherently dangerous of an independent and inherently dangerous felony. Here, the state will argue that Dara should be liable for the death of Dawn because she was Dawn's co-felon, and because Dawn's death occurred during the commission of the burglary. However, under the red line rule, Dara will argue that if the death of a co-felon is committed by excuse me, a bystander or innocent party such as Ned, sure I got bystander or bystander or bystander, see, yeah, there we go. Or innocent party such as Ned, then the surviving co-felon should not be liable for the death of the co-felon. Here, the facts indicate that Ned shot and killed Dawn. I want to make sure it's, okay, here's the facts indicate that Ned shot Dawn through the window, killing him. Facts indicate that Ned shot Dawn through the window, killing Dawn. Because Ned is would be considered a bystander let's see, I think I've already said that. Don't want to restate myself, so make sure here. So therefore, however, under red line rule, Dara will argue that if the death of a co-felon is committed by a bystander or innocent party such as Ned, then the surviving co-felon should not be liable for the death of the co-felon. Here, the facts indicate that Ned shot Dawn through the window and killed Dawn. Hence, Dara will argue that she should not be liable for the death of of Dawn by Ned. Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Another okay. Because Dawn was killed by Ned and innocent, well, actually probably a bystander because Dawn was killed because although, here we go. Don was killed during the commission of the burglary. Don was Ned, a bystander. I gotta reread this to myself to make sure it sounds right. Okay, hence Dara will argue that she should be liable. She should not be liable for the death of Don by Ned because although Don was killed during the commission of the burglary, Ned, a bystander, was actually the one that killed Don. Okay. Thus, under the red line rule, the state will not be able to charge Dara with the death of Don. Okay, now attempted burglary. Now let's take a look at attempted crimes here. Attempted crimes have specific intent aspects to them. Also, there is the impossibility defense of impossibility. There's a parent ability. And we need to establish that there's actually been some perpetration. The actual, in other words, that we're not the party is not preparing; they're actually carrying out the criminal plan. Perpetration. Okay, or what we call a sufficient act. Okay. What was the specific intent? The specific was intent to break into Ned's home. Here, the facts indicate that Dara and Don specifically intended to break into Ned's home. Now, if I remember correctly, is it to steal something? Break into Ned's home. Okay, so chose to break into Ned's home. Okay, got it. So it's just breaking in Ned's home. Here we go. Inside Ned. Okay. That's arguments for Ned. Okay, right here. I want to make sure too that we talk about attempt here. Attempt is an incomplete crime. Attempt requires the elements of, I think we just talked about it, specific intent to commit the crime, an impossibility discussion, apparent ability to carry out the crime, and sufficient perpetration of the crime to evidence sufficient act. So, yeah. Okay. A sufficient act was taken. Okay. So now we got that there. Okay, now we're going to say here the facts indicate that Dara and Don specifically intended to break into Ned's home. Thus, Dara and Don had the, okay, yeah, Don had the, I should say the evidence indicates that, or thus the facts indicate, excuse me, that there was a specific intent. Oh yeah, substantial test, exactly. A defense of impossibility. Here, the state will argue that I should say, yeah, state will argue that Dara, well, come back up here. I want to look at this one particular fact in question. Okay, that Dara's parking outside and Don's creeping toward the house. Okay. Don's creeping toward the house, and Don's creeping toward the house, and Don's, paragraph 3 here real quick, being right outside Ned's dining room window. Evidences that Dara and Don were almost able to carry out the crime of burglary of Ned's home. Okay, now even if excuse me, even if Dara argues through factual impossibility that the facts were not as they intended them to be, the state will successfully rebut or successfully counter-argue that this defense, that this impossibility argument is not a defense. This factual impossibility argument is not a defense because it's not a defense. Let me read this. Even if Dara argues through factual impossibility that the facts were not as her and Don intended them to be, the state will successfully counter-argue that this factual impossibility argument is not a valid defense because even if the facts had been as they intended, the crime would have been successful, which does not provide Dara a valid defense. Thus, Dara's impossibility defense will fail. Now their apparent ability, here the facts indicate that Dara and Dawn were or had carried out similar break-ins in Ned's community. Also, the facts indicate Dara, make sure I come up here a little bit. Occurred during, when homeowners were, perpetrated by Dara and Dawn. Dara would wait in the getaway car while Dawn broke in and stole electronics. Neither was armed. One night, Dara and Dawn chose to break into Ned's home. Dara parked outside. Dawn crept towards the house. Okay. Got it. Okay. Understood. The facts in it. Okay. Well, we're going to say here that the state will argue that Dara and Dawn had an apparent ability to carry out their criminal plan, breaking into Ned's home, because Dara parked outside Ned's house. Dawn crept up to Ned's home and Dawn was right in front of Ned's front or dining room window. Thus, the state will succeed in proving that Dara and Dawn had the apparent ability to carry or to commit the criminal plan of breaking into Ned's home. Okay. Okay. Here we are. Here the state will argue that Dara took a substantial step when she not only drove her and Dawn to Ned's home, but also waited for Dawn to break into Ned's house. Waited for Dawn in the car. Waited for her in the car for Dawn to break into Ned's house. Yeah. Hence, Dara had gone from mere preparation of breaking into Ned's house. Yeah. How would you discuss? Yeah, exactly. We need to get to that. Okay. Therefore, so we're going to end on that one. Hence, Dara had gone from mere preparation of breaking in Ned's home into actual perpetration. Therefore, the state will charge Dara with attempted burglary of Ned's home. Okay, excellent. Is Ned on the hook for Dawn's murder? That's exactly where we're headed to right now. Very excellent perception. Okay, so this is, okay, we're heading down now to State v. Ned. Now, let's take this up. Homicide of Dawn. Homicide is an unlawful killing of a human being by another human being. Here, Dawn was killed by Ned when Ned, let's come up here and grab the fact real quick. Thank you for your patience. Right here. When Ned picked up a shotgun and shot Dawn through the window. When Ned picked up a shotgun and shot Dawn through the window. Thus, homicide. Okay. Defense. Now, we're going to come down to actual cause. Here, but for Ned's shooting of Dawn with the shotgun, Dawn would not have died. Right, that's these are the defenses that are going to be brought up. The defense of property, self-defense, possibly crime prevention. That's what we're going to bring up as defenses. But right now, we're establishing, you might say, the prima facie side of the homicide of Dawn through Ned shooting Dawn. Okay, now, thus, Ned was the actual cause of Dawn's death. Okay, here we go. Proximate cause. Here, the state will argue that it is foreseeable that a death would occur during the commission of a criminal activity such as burglary. Yeah, not felony murder for Ned. So we're going to talk about that under malice of forethought under here. Well, thank you for pointing that out. Murder / malice of forethought. Excellent. Very good. Now, what about are there any intervening acts here that would talk about that? I want to make sure we bring into our discussion the alarm being activated, and oh yeah, what's this? He is not a a conspirator. No, he is not. He is not a conspirator. Are we talking about Don here, right? Well, Don is a conspirator. Ned is not a conspirator. No. Now, okay, yeah. Let's make sure. Okay. Well, no, we're going to be bringing up felony murder rule for Ned, but we brought it up before when we brought up Dara, and see, Dara had the counter argument, the red line rule. Right, that's exactly right. We're going to be bringing it up here in just a minute. Why? Oh, okay. Well, what do you mean by no? No FMR here? Okay. Yeah, I see that. That's exactly right. There is no felony murder rule here. That's exactly right. We want to zoom in because of our time constraint here, 60 minutes, right, for writing our paper, on what is relevant, and that's, or I should say, applicable, supported by the facts. The felony murder rule is not applicable here because it's not supported by the facts, like you pointed out. That's exactly right. The very same act that caused the death to Don wasn't independent from the Ned. Yeah, intent to cause serious bodily harm. Exactly. That you might get. Intent to kill you might get. Depraved heart you might get. Felony murder doesn't exactly. But felony murder does not have any basis in our facts. That's exactly right. Now here, state will argue that it is foreseeable that a death occurred, that a death would occur during the commission of a criminal activity such as burglary. Also, nothing indicates that any of the intervening events superseded the causal chain. And I'll just make sure here, like for instance, the alarm being activated, the video feeds, and Ned's and Ned's reaction to Don being in front of the dining room window superseded the actual cause, did not supersede the actual causal chain. Thus, Ned was the proximate cause of Don's death. Okay. Exactly. Now, possibly intent to kill because he looked forward to shooting someone. That's exactly right. See, that's what we're going to be talking about here. Remember, murder is the unlawful or unjustified killing of another with malice aforethought. Malice aforethought is established by the mental states of intent, first of all, intent to kill. Yeah, at least second degree, exactly. First degree, second degree. We're going to be getting to that. That's exactly right. So degrees. Thank you for pointing that out. First degree. Thank you for pointing it out, because oftentimes when we're in the quote-unquote heat of battle in the writing exam, or writing our exam, I should say, we may forget something that we didn't put down ahead of time, and that's why putting the mini issues outline ahead of time will help us in more ways than one. Because when we get there, not only do we have, number one, a guide, like a map, a compass of sorts, but also we can be able to better appreciate time management, be able to allocate our time more efficiently, and also that we have all of our issues there. Okay, that's I know it sounds like a little too simple, but that is an important factor when you're writing a timed exam like this. Having everything there will pay off in dividends for you. Okay, so up here, number 2 will be felony murder rule, and 3, intent to cause serious bodily harm. And then number 4, depraved heart murder. Now, should we parse these out? Absolutely. You know what? If you got the time, throw it in there. Two. Oh, see. Oh. Felony murder rule. Okay. Now, are there any facts that indicated that Ned intended to kill Dawn? Okay. Here, the state will argue that Ned's looking forward to shooting the perpetrators of the criminal activity in his neighborhood supplied the necessary intent element. Also, the state will argue that Ned's use of the deadly weapon the shotgun would impliedly indicate that Ned had intent to cause or intent to kill Dawn, because Ned used the shotgun in its death causing capacity by shooting Don and killing Don. By shooting and killing Don. There we go. So even if it maybe it's not, or would imply, it would imply that Ned had intent to kill Don because Ned used the shotgun in his death-causing capacity by shooting and killing Don. Thus, intent to kill, murder. Okay. Now down here under felony murder rule, okay, here the state will not be able to argue felony murder rule because the very same act that caused Don's death, the shooting of Don, was not independent and Ned was not in the commission of any crime. So I think there's a lot of missing elements here. Yeah, so there. Okay. Would you agree with that as well? Would you agree with this assessment that no felony murder rule, or would you find felony murder rule? Oh, you would. How so? No. Oh, no. Okay. Yeah. Exactly. See, that's what I'm saying. I would say here the state will not be able to argue felony murder rule because the very same act that caused Don's death, the shooting of Don, was not independent of Don's death. Thus, no felony murder rule. Okay, so now, was there an intent to cause serious bodily harm? Here the state, yeah. Oh, that's okay. It's okay. No problem. The state will argue that Ned intended to cause Don serious bodily harm because Ned shot and killed Don. Or Ned shot and killed Don with a shotgun. While Don was outside Ned's dining room window. Thus, intent to kill or intent to cause serious bodily harm murder. Okay, there we go. Shooting point blank, that's right. I'll put that in there. Shot and killed Don point blank with a shotgun while Don was outside Ned's dining room window. Thus intent to cause serious bodily harm murder. Excellent. Very good. Very good point on that one. Okay, here Don or Ned recklessly disregarded the life of Don when Ned What? Ned had to know he was going to do. Yeah. Yes, exactly right. Yeah, he sure did. Ned recklessly disregarded the life of Don when Ned shot and killed Don. I want to come up here and grab some facts from our fact pattern. Okay, on the video, Ned. Okay, Ned. Okay, okay. After Ned saw that Don was right outside his dining room window, he entered the dining room, picked up a shotgun, and shot and killed Don through the window, killing him. Okay. Here, Ned recklessly disregarded the life of Don when Ned reacted to Don's presence, picked up a shotgun, and shot and killed Don when Don was right outside Ned's dining room window. Oh, thank you. I don't have, you know. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay. Oh, this way. Okay. Alrighty. Back to our fact pattern. Okay. Ned recklessly disregarded the life of Don when Ned reacted to Don's presence, picked up a shotgun, shot and killed Don when Don was right outside Ned's dining room window. Thus, depraved heart murder of Don. Okay, now, under degrees, let's take a look here. Since we have intent to kill, we could probably talk about premeditation and deliberation. First degree murder through intent to kill requires premeditation and deliberation. Premeditation is a thought out criminal plan, and deliberation criminal plan to kill, and deliberation is a cool mind capable of carrying out the criminal plan. I'll say criminal objective. Okay. Okay. Here, the facts state that Ned was looking forward to the prospects of shooting the perpetrator of the break-ins in his neighborhood. Hence, the state may argue that Ned had a meditation had evidenced premeditation. However, here's the thing though. Ned may argue that his reaction, you could say, or his, let me come up here. I want to get this right because when the alarm went off, was there any here that, okay. No, oh, Ned's alarm activated on the video feed. So Ned saw that Don was right outside the white dining room window. Ned entered the dining room window, picked up a shotgun, killed Don through the window, killing him. Okay. So right here, that however Ned may argue that his reaction to Don's his reaction to the alarm being set off by Don created did not. Oh, Ned may say that he only wanted to shoot someone, not to kill someone. That's exactly right. That Ned may argue that his reaction to the alarm being set off by Don did not create an environment of a cool mind capable of reflection. Also, Ned will argue that he did not intend to kill anyone, but just to stop them from breaking into his house. Okay. Yeah, heat of passion at the alarm. Exactly. Now, do you think this is where I would say the counter argument from the state may trump here, because here's why I'm thinking. However, the state will rebut this argument by claiming that Ned had a cool mind because he quickly he checked the video feed, went into the room, went into the dining room, picked up a shotgun, and shot and killed Don. In addition, the state will argue that a cool mind, or that will counter argue that that only a cool mind could have shot and killed Don with such precision and aim. Thus, the court will likely find that Ned is chargeable with first-degree intent to kill. Oh, is the cool mind because he aimed? Yeah, exactly. Very, very good. That was exactly where I was going. All right, excellent. Very, very good. Now, second degree. Malice states are all mental states not in first degree. Oh, second degree is all malice states not in first degree. Here the state may charge Ned with the second degree murder of Dawn through intent to cause serious bodily harm murder and depraved heart murder. Yes, exactly. That's exactly right. We want to make sure to note that in our defenses, okay, first of all, the defense of property. Defense of personal property cannot be through deadly force. Cannot be executed through deadly force. Here, Ned will argue that his need for shooting Dawn was to protect his property, his house, from being broke into. However, the state will counter argue that Dawn, was not even close to Ned's house and was not in Ned's home. Castle doctrine. Thus, Ned's defense of property through deadly force will most likely fail. Self-defense now. Unless deadly force is being used against the person defending their own property. Yes. Yeah. So you could say the state will counter argue that Dawn was not even that this what that brings up is the self-defense argument. Yeah. Now, One may face self-defense is present when one's life is immediately in danger one may face force against them with proportional amount of force. Okay, one may face the force against them with proportional with the application of a proportional amount of force. Here, Ned will argue that he feared his life was about to be taken by Don because Don was very close to his home and that Don was right outside his dining room window. Yeah, it's exactly right. Ned will further argue that his shooting of Don was in reaction to the immediate danger that Don presented to Ned's life. Thus, Ned's defense of self-defense may supply him with a viable, or Ned's self-defense argument may supply him with Ned's self-defense may supply him with a viable argument against homicide of Don. Crime prevention. One may act to prevent crime by the use of reasonable means and reasonable force. Here, Ned may argue that his use of deadly force, his use of alarms, video feeds, and deadly force was only meant to prevent crime and not to hurt anyone. However, the state will argue that not only was Ned's Deadly force unreasonable because he could have called the police, but also that Ned's not only was Ned's use of deadly force unreasonable because he could have called the police, but also Ned's I'm trying to see about that. What was it that about that they said the facts said about his he had looked forward to shooting. Okay, yeah, Ned manifested, yeah, that he looked forward to the prospects of shooting the perpetrator, but also that Ned's looking forward to shooting the perpetrator of the crime in his neighborhood was evidence of his, well, let's see. Okay. But also Ned's immediate response to Don's presence by shooting Don was a direct result of Ned's looking forward to shooting the perpetrator of the criminal of the crime in his neighborhood. Yeah, that's right. Hence, Ned's defense of crime prevention using his shotgun likely exceeded the force reasonable force allowed by the law. Okay. Hence, Ned's defense of crime prevention will fail because Ned shooting Don likely exceeded the reasonable force allowed by the law. With the shotgun, likely exceeded the reasonable force allowed by the law. Now, down here under manslaughter or voluntary manslaughter, we want to make sure to bring up imperfect self-defense. Here, Ned, here, we want to make sure here that we bring in voluntary manslaughter. Is present when, oh, great, yeah, exactly. Voluntary manslaughter is present when a reasonable person would be provoked to kill. The defendant was actually provoked. A reasonable person would not have had an adequate time to cool off, and the defendant did not cool off. Now, first of all, I want to say that this isn't voluntary manslaughter. I want to bring up first, I want to talk about the heat of passion defense, because this is what I brought up. So we want to make sure heat of passion. And I also want to bring up after this, don't forget, imperfect self-defense. This is why we do our outline. Ahead of time, ahead of our writing, so that we don't forget the direction our writing is going. Voluntary manslaughter through heat of passion defense is present when a reasonable person would be provoked to kill. The defendant was actually provoked. A reasonable person would not have had adequate time to cool off, and the defendant did not cool off. Here, Ned's reaction to Don's presence outside Ned's home would likely have. See, that this is where I'm kind of like perplexed. Would a reasonable person have been provoked to kill Don if Don was just right outside their dining room window? That's what we're looking at here. What do you think? Here's why I say this is, yeah, it's maybe, but here's why I say this. I want to make this clear that Ned's reaction to Don's presence by shooting and killing Don may not have been reasonable, because a reasonable person may not have instantly sought deadly force before calling police or the proper authorities. Hence, Ned's heat of passion defense would likely fail to mitigate his homicide charge. Now, this is where imperfect self-defense comes in. All right. This is something to watch out for too. When you have self-defense, oftentimes you have an accompanying imperfect self-defense argument under your voluntary manslaughter. Okay, so something to look out for. Now, imperfect self-defense. Imperfect self-defense is an honestly but unreasonably an honestly but unreasonable belief that one's life is about to be taken. Here. Now, oh yeah, imperfect self-defense will work. That's exactly right. Here, Ned may argue that he believed that the alarm being activated the video feed showing that Dawn was right in front of the dining room window may argue that he believed that Dawn was about to take his life because Dawn tripped the alarm, the video feed showed that Dawn was right out front of the dining room window, and Ned could see Dawn almost approach the house. Thus, Ned may argue that he held an honest belief that Dawn was that Dawn's presence represented a immediate threat to his life. Now I want to make sure when you go back and you're reviewing these, make sure too as you're writing that all of your arguments are working together. Now, here Ned may argue that he believed that Dawn was about to take his life because Dawn tripped the alarm. The video feed showed that Dawn was right in front of the dining room window, and Ned could see Dawn almost approach the house. Thus, Ned may argue that he held an honest but unreasonable belief, I should say. There we go. Oh, there we go. Held an honest but unreasonable belief that Dawn's presence in front of the dining room window represented an immediate threat to his life. Okay. And then we're going to wrap this up with a quick little involuntary manslaughter discussion. Involuntary manslaughter through criminal gross negligence is present when the course of conduct significantly poses, significantly threatens, human life. So, involuntary manslaughter through criminal gross negligence is present when the course of conduct significantly threatens human life. Here, Ned's shooting and killing Don with the shotgun when Don was right in front of the dining room window not only threatened the life of Don because Don was killed, but also significantly threatened the life to those potentially in the area that Ned shot Don. In the area that could be affected by Ned shooting Don. Okay. Okay. Oh, yeah. Very, very well. You're very welcome. Thus, Ned may argue that his homicide charge should be mitigated to involuntary manslaughter through criminal gross negligence. There we go. All right. This was very fun, very excellent. Thank you for the thoughts, and we've all learned a ton. All right, I want to put a shout out to Chess Cruncher TV on Twitch TV. Keep going, Chess Cruncher. You're amazing. And I also want to put a shout out to my Amazon Kindle book, Battling the Big Bad Baby Bar. Thank you so much for tuning in to this podcast. There should be more coming. Have a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening, and best of luck on the bar exam.